Sakura, the Street Fighter character and mentee of Ryu, though I'm not entirely sure that he's aware that he's her mentor. I've been asked to do a character design for her, and it's made me come to a realization. Sakura's character is pretty weird. Alright, as I've said earlier, I was asked to do a redesign for Sakura for Street Fighter 6 attire. I was initially excited to work on her because I'm actually a fan of hers. I liked how she pretty much played like a schoolgirl who practiced the assassin's fist, which is always absolutely hilarious to me. Just this killer girl that's walking through like high schools and colleges for whatever reason. But as usual, I like to do some research on characters before I do redesigns for them, just to see if I can come up with any ideas to see what I discover along the way. Got a lot of issues with Sakura. The first and most important one being that she's been a schoolgirl for a long time. It's crazy her depiction of a schoolgirl has lasted from the Alpha games all the way to Street Fighter 4 and 5, while the amount of time that passed isn't as large as like the difference between Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 3. It's still quite a bit. She shouldn't be in school that long, nor should she be dressed this way. Though I guess by Street Fighter 5 they depicted her as maturing a little bit and working a part-time job. But even that, like her character now is that she's working a part-time job. What the hell am I supposed to do with that from a design standpoint? I love the growth of the character, but it's like it's still a fighting game at the end of the day. And doing a redesign for her is challenging because her character growth doesn't really revolve around fighting. To add to this, she's actually contemplating whether it's time for her to start a family and start having children. Like, where do I go from this? So that was my initial dilemma in trying to come up with a design for Sakura. So what I decided to do was to take some liberties with her design, and I thought of her as a mother who still practices martial arts for discipline and sort of design her that way. Keep in mind that by Street Fighter 6, Sakura should be in her mid to late 30s age-wise. I don't quite think she should be 40 yet, but she's getting close. If Ryu is supposed to be almost 45 in Street Fighter 6. So let's see what I could do with the more mature Sakura this time around.
Sakura! Since when do we say hi when we enter a dojo? You know better than that. And start calling me sensei too. How many times? Seriously.
Okay. Whatever you say, sensei.
Alright, so I had her base pose down pat in the beginning, but I also wanted her to somewhat look like a hipster mom as well. I mean, it feels like the woman has been a schoolgirl for 20 years, so I feel like I should get a pass at this point. So I started with her shoes and gloves in the very beginning. I kind of wanted to give her a jacket when I started designing this, so I drew a jacket on her with like a hoodie underneath, and then I gave her a short skirt, because it's Sakura. Certain design aspects like the skirt and the headband I wasn't really going to change that much here. Still wanted it to read as the same character. And I already had it in mind that I was going to give her tights underneath the skirt. Again, if I'm going with the idea that she's more mature, the less skin showing the better for this design. Then at some point I just got the idea to change her jacket to more of like a bubble style jacket, which off the top of my head I'm not even sure if there are a lot of those in Street Fighter like main designs, or their base designs I should say, for a better way of phrasing that. So I just started putting like patches and little details in on the actual like base planning of her artwork in the design in the beginning, and then after that I went back and cleaned over everything with the line art. As I said before, I gave Sakura her headband still. It's the one thing that's still kind of making her look more like a young girl than it is a grown woman, at least for the design, but I still wanted it to kind of read Sakura. I didn't want it to look like random Japanese girl. And the idea of her just dressed as a regular woman but still having the bright red gloves and the headband is still kind of hilarious to me. And changing up small unnecessary details is kind of what got me in the Dudley design when I changed his gloves, so I'm not making that mistake twice. But in any event, I finished going ahead and working on her line art, like I said, cleaning those up, and then it was on to the coloring. I started off with her face and hair, basically the things that I know that already look the way that they're supposed to look from the previous designs, before trying to wrap my head around how I was going to do the rest of her color scheme, which, not gonna lie, didn't really have a plan for, outside of the fact that I felt like her bubble jacket should be pink more than anything else. I went ahead and did the coloring on her tights and the jean skirt. I'm not really sure why I chose the pink boots other than to just make that match with the jacket. and it looked like it fit. Throughout the majority of the design, I left the jacket as white. I changed that back to blue as I initially almost did by the time I finished. I don't know, the white one just seemed way too plain, and adding the blue one made it seem like Sakura just got off the clock and was ready to fight somebody. Don't know why that would be a thing other than the fact that, you know, this is Street Fighter. But in any event, once that was finished, it was on to doing the shadows and highlights. And doing the shadows on the bubble jacket was actually pretty fun just because the amount of detail that needs to go into making sure that the jacket pops. So doing the shadows and highlights on that was actually pretty fun. Then going ahead and doing like the details with the highlights pretty much made it stand out the rest of the way. And after finishing that up and adding like the specular highlights to the design, I was pretty much finished. And I had this brand new Street Fighter 6 Sakura design. I'll let you be the judge as to whether or not she looks like a grown adult woman now and looks like she's more mature. At least more mature than she's looked in like the last almost 30 years at this point. But in any event, let me know what you think in the comments below about the design and whether or not you think that Sakura really does need like a overhaul in her look in general. And as I've said earlier, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And you all have a good one, and I'm out.
Get it on that. Select to make it first pick. Get it on that. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Get it on that. Choose and pick the best one. Get it on that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get it on that. Select to make it first pick. Get it on that. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Get it on that. Choose and pick the best one. Get it on that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get it on that. Select to make it first pick. Get it on that.